Hey guys, what's up? This is Shot Science Overtime number 77. I'm Casey. This is Coach Tom. So what happens is that we usually talk about a topic at the top of the show. We'll get into that in just a second. But in the meantime, what you guys need to do is start sending us questions about anything basketball related that you want answered. So it could be about shooting. It could be about dribbling. It could be about defense, passing, whatever. Just send us your message and let us know what you want us to talk about. You can find us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. You can find us on Facebook, Google+, and also on YouTube, or you can send them to us here in the Q&A app on this Google+ Hangout, or in the chat of the YouTube video. That's a lot of places you can find us. Just give it a shot. Okay, so once we finish up with our topic, we'll get into your questions. It would also be great if you also go out there and ask your friends, family, and whoever to check out our live shows, because that only helps us in making them better and also getting cooler guests for you to experience here. So we've had NBA players like Danny Green on. We've had college coaches. We've also had coaches that work with getting kids into college programs and stuff. So if you're able to go out and tell your friends and family to check it out, we would really appreciate it. Okay, a lot of info at the top of the show. But so what we're going to do now is jump into our topic for today. And today it's kind of a different one than we're used to, and what we're going to talk about is how to shoot like Steph Curry, and that's a pretty loaded topic, but we kind of want to just hit some of the elements that he uses to make his shot great, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. Arguably, he probably is the premier shooter in the NBA right now. There are other greats. There's no question about that. Ray Allen is just an awesome guy, and there are others.
Kyle Korver.
Yeah, Kyle Korver. I mean, those guys can all really shoot it. But when it comes down to just kind of a pure shooter, we kind of think that Steph Curry really exemplifies what really a good shooter is all about. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's really important too about his shooting is the fact that he understands how to create space for a shot. I was reading about him recently, and this author was telling me that most shooters try to read what the defender is doing so that they can react to that and create their shot. Whereas Curry anticipates where they're going to be, and then he makes his move accordingly, and oftentimes he is right on the money. And so that quickness and able to get off the floor for the shot is really key. The thing that you probably don't pay too much attention to, he doesn't really leap high. He's not like Ray Allen, who really elevates when he shoots, but he comes off the floor quick. And one of the things that he talked about recently, I read something on him. He was talking about how important the pickup dribble is to shooting. And the pickup dribble is that last dribble that you put on the floor before you pick it up and get into your shooting stroke. And the idea there was that that particular dribble really it helps you to explode into the shot because it's coming up so quickly. We teach that as well, and we think that one of the things that's really important there is the ball, when it comes off your hand quick, it not only makes it more difficult for somebody to get their hand on because it's more explosive, but it tends to stick in your hand a little better when it's coming off the floor really pretty hard.
Yeah, so I mean, you want to really just pound that into the ground on that last one, because it'll give you that explosiveness. It'll also help you get rhythm, and it also keeps that dribble short in terms of time.
Right.
Which is very important when you're going up against a defender and stuff too.
Right.
So it's just a real shot.
Okay. Other things that are really important about his shot that we think are really really good is the fact that he eliminates any unnecessary motions or movements in that shot as well. It's very efficient, and there's not anything going on except getting that ball into a shooting position and ready to go and getting off the floor quickly. And very seldom do you see his shots get blocked. One reason is because he is really kind of crafty about creating space. One of the things that you see him do from time to time, if they run a double team at him, he's able to back up and elevate quickly and get that shot off before they can really close in on him.
Yeah, and everybody's always talking about they want to have a quicker release, a quicker so-and-so, but the way that that Steph Curry has actually achieved that is through those two things you just talked about.
Right.
And that is through the efficiency of his shot. So he's eliminated all the variables that are unnecessary So
Right.
anything that doesn't actually really serve the shot has been eliminated. So
Yeah.
that speeds everything up. Number two is that he has what was I just going to say? Um, he has learned to create. Was that the second thing?
Well, we talked about creating space is an important part of it, is getting the shot off. Yeah.
Yeah, so creating space also helps you get the shot off too, because if you have more space, you're going to be able to get it off before the defender is able to close out on you, and you don't have to rush your finish, which is the biggest thing. Because if you're rushing your finish, then you're going to be adding tension to kind of a finer finesse movement that will really drop your accuracy. But if you're only rushing your feet and you're very efficient, you're not going to have to do that at the expense of your flop finish.
Right. You know, the other thing about Curry is that the elements of his shot are really, really very outstanding. They're great. You know, he gets the ball up and his arm into that L position. The wrist is cocked and it's ready to go. And the thing that is really important too, one of the things that I read about him one time is he makes sure that that elbow doesn't drift out on him. The term that they were using, I think, is calling that chicken winging, where the elbow flares, because when the elbow flares out, the shot tends to flatten out, and usually your accuracy is not very good either. And so those things are all really important. Now, here's something else that is really important in his shot too, is he's developed a touch that is just really unreal. And this is something else that I had read about him. This has been several months ago. I read an article about him, and they were talking about how he shoots 1,000 shots every day before practice. So he's got to be out there a couple hours before practice, and that's all he's doing is shooting, and he's working on the elements of his shot so that they're going to be pure. They're not going to have that elbow flaring to the outside, and he's got that nice release to the wrist. The thing that's really important too is that the thing is that he has got all this these motions, these actions in developing the shot into just a great muscle memory accord, and he's able to execute that every time he shoots it. And you can just see as he follows the ball that, he doesn't follow the ball, but as he eyeballs the basket, that everything is in motion and very efficient every time he shoots the basketball. Very seldom do you ever see him shoot a real poor shot.
Yeah, and one of the things too about his release is that he has that really relaxed finger flop finish,
Right.
where he's not snapping or flicking or anything like that. The ball really just gently rolls off of his hand, off those last two fingers, and the index and middle finger, and it's just a real relaxed flop, and he has that gentle backspin on the ball.
Right. And he has a nice arc too.
Yeah, and if you watch his shot, I mean, you'll see that it just seems very soft. And that's hard to explain, but like if it hits the backboard or hits the rim, it's not going to go careening off or have kind of a weird bounce. It always is going to stay right around the rim because it's so gentle and has that nice soft backspin, and when it hits the rim, it just kind of expends its energy and kind of bounces up and falls back. So that's one of the things that kind of sets him apart from some of the other guys that you might see that have that real snap and fast backspin that when it hits the rim or backboard, it just goes flying off.
Right. That's one of the things that we think is really basic to shooting too, is having that nice floppy wrist. We don't want the ball to be spinning really fast. Oftentimes when you shoot a ball that is spinning really fast and it rims into the rim, you do create that long rebound. If the ball is spinning slower, there's less likely for there to be a whole bunch of rotation on the ball, and so therefore it tends to be a lot softer around the basket. The other thing that's really important too is that you hold that finish. The hold of the finish is something that once you've released the basketball up here, you hold that, and we teach our students, and I'm sure that he does, he's under the same kind of thinking as we are, is that you hold it until the ball gets to the basket. And we refer to that particular finish like that as an MJ, and we kind of give it that MJ or Michael Jordan acronym so that people will remember to do that. And it's amazing how efficient your shot becomes when you finish it, because too often when we finish, we have that wrist flop back, we have the wrist start to go, and it doesn't quite finish. And so by getting out to the end of your arm and making sure that all of that finishes with a straight arm and a nice arc, your shot becomes much more
Yeah,
efficient.
and the reason that you do that is because it doesn't affect the shot really after you release the ball. After you
Yep.
release the ball, you could do anything you want, and it wouldn't affect the flight of the ball. But the reason that you want to hold your release is because it influences how you are going up through the release initially, and it reminds you to have all those attributes as part of your shot. So
Right.
you're not doing anything by holding it there. It's really just reinforcing what you do beforehand.
And completing the shot. Sometimes what will happen is that students will get almost to the end and they won't finish, and so the ball ends up being short. So if you get out to the end of your arm and finish with that nice wrist and hold that, that finishes or completes the shot. You tend to be more on target and not short when you do that.
Yeah, and so one of the biggest things that I think that you guys should take away from Steph Curry's shooting is just the efficiency of it.
Mhm.
It's has very little variables that don't need to be there, and the thing about variables is that they add complexity to your shooting. And if your shot becomes more complex, it's harder to repeat. If it's harder to repeat, your accuracy is going to fall off
Right.
very fast.
Right.
And so one of the reasons why he is able to have such accuracy is the fact that his shot doesn't have any extra junk on it.
Yeah.
There is no flash and flare about it. It is literally the bare bones motion that you need to have an accurate shot.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Well, now let me run one more thing by you. That this is something that you can see, you can almost feel when he's getting ready to shoot the ball. He has a certain rhythm that he generates on how he uses his feet to create that space and the rhythm for the shot. And that really is effective for most everybody that is a shooter in basketball, is to develop rhythm. We feel like that the rhythm for your shot typically is better served by you using your footwork to create that. And a lot of players use other things to do it, but we think this is much more efficient if you use your feet. If a very typical kind of instruction thing that I use when I'm talking to somebody about this is, we're on the court and we talk about dancing, how when you go on to the dance floor and you can hear the music playing, one of the things that happens is that you start to move your feet. And with that foot movement, that generates a rhythm for the rest of your body. And so this is kind of like that, in that you start to move your feet in a very productive manner, and that takes and gives you a rhythm for the entire shot.
Right. And one of the things too that I will talk about just very briefly is that some people say that Steph Curry likes to dip the ball before he shoots. Here's the thing about that. He does not, unless he's in one situation, and that is when he is at a complete standstill and he has no rhythm.
And he has nowhere to go with it.
And
Yeah.
that's true of many players, is that if they have no rhythm and they're standing still and they catch the pass, they can't use their feet to generate the rhythm, and so they do dip the ball. But the thing is that if you are able to use your feet and eliminate having to use that dip, then you will be much more efficient, and you will not be exposing the ball to the defense. You will also not be having to go through a longer, periodization of the ball where it's kind of taking longer and things can go wrong in that time period. It's slower, and it's just not necessary. And that's why he doesn't use it unless he is caught in that standstill position. And so, people that say that he dips the ball, he does, but only in that situation, really. So just be smart about that kind of stuff and look at it logically. Like, why are people doing these certain things? And there's usually a reasoning behind it. And somebody like Steph Curry, he has put a lot of thought into all the elements of his shots, and you can't oversimplify them. You have to look at them for when they are used, why they're being used, and that's kind of why you'll arrive at the mechanics that he has.
Right. His brother Seth is the product of their father Dell and his shooting, because he was a great shooter as well. And he happens to play on a local D-League team here where we are, and he's very effective in much the same way. You see the same style as you see with Steph Curry in Seth Curry.
And the same thing is true of Klay Thompson and his brother Michael. Both of those guys have the same kind of deal where everything is very efficient.
Yeah.
There's no wasted movement. There's no extra hitches or anything like that, because they want everything to be extremely smooth. And that's the other thing, too, that we'll say very quickly, is that when you have sticking points or stopping points in your shot, which if you watch Steph Curry, every time he shoots the ball, he goes from feet to finish, everything is all one fluid connected motion.
Right.
And there's no sticking points or any little hitch or stopping point, because if you do that, then you're going to have a place in your shot where you lose power and probably lose rhythm as well. So you want to make sure that you keep everything very fluid, and that's why you see him. He gets the ball and he goes straight up into his shot, and it doesn't look like it stops until he releases the ball off of his hand.
Well, here's another comment that I remember reading about him at some time in the past too, is that when he shoots, he wants the feeling, it feels like there is a wave moving through his body from his feet to the end of his hand. And I think that really characterizes the idea of rhythm as well, just it's this wave feeling as it goes from one end to the other.
Okay, so are we good on that?
Yeah, that's good.
So we'll probably have another examination of Steph Curry's shot at some point down the line with like an official video. If you guys really want to see that, let us know, and we'll try to do some kind of breakdown on that. And maybe that's something that we'll get into if you guys like that kind of stuff. But right now, what we want you guys to do is to make sure that you are sending us questions so that we can answer them for you from the coach's perspective. So if you have anything basketball related that you want answered, or that you would want to ask a coach and maybe are afraid to do that in person, now would be the time to do it. And you can send us those questions at Shot Science on Twitter, or you can send them to us in the chat here on Google Plus or on YouTube, or you can catch us on Facebook or on our actual Google Plus page. So we have a lot of places you can find us. We're going to try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. We don't usually get to everybody, but we try. And make sure you go tell your friends and family to check us out, because that is really awesome for you to do that. Okay, so are you ready? Let's start.
Good.
Okay, so this first one is from the Q&A in Google Plus. It's from Nashiz Memnon or Mimon, and they ask, how do you build confidence to take the shots in the game rather than be nervous and pass up on your good chances?
Well, all of those kinds of things come about because you develop confidence in yourself as a shooter. And we don't develop that confidence unless we spend a ton of time going through and making sure that we have a very efficient shot that we can feel good about when we shoot it. One of the things that you oftentimes find is that young shooters feel like they need to shoot 70 or 80% when they're shooting shots. Well, unless you're shooting layups, that's not going to be real. In games, you'll find that if you're shooting from mid-range out to probably just a little beyond the three-point line, you probably, even really good shooters are going to probably be in the low 40% for those shots. And so one of the things that you want to do is take and develop confidence in yourself in your shot. And you do that by practicing, and then practicing some more. And once you have all of that working for you, then you want to take it to the game. And it could be pickup games, it could be anything, but don't be afraid to shoot the ball. One of the things that I feel about a lot of young players and maybe older ones as well is they don't take shots that they could take because they're afraid they're going to miss. And the guys that will never be successful as shooters are the guys that when they release the ball, I hope it goes, I hope it goes, I hope it goes. Well, if you talk and are around people who shoot the ball really well, that's not even in their brain. They're thinking it's in. It's in. Okay, I'll get it next time. It is in. So you develop that ability to shoot in those situations by developing confidence in your skills, and then making sure that you go into a situation where you can practice those skills, like maybe pickup games or any kind of bet, and then shoot the ball.
Yeah, it's about experience and just getting comfortable with your skills. Yeah. If you're not comfortable with your skills, you're not going to be comfortable with actually applying them in a game.
Well, here's another thought too. If you are a really good shooter and you're passing up shots, that's damaging to your team. If you have the capability of shooting 40% from the three-point line and you don't shoot any, or you take one or two, then you are really cheating your team. You need to be able to create space so you can get those shots and then take them.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that people kind of fall into, is that they try to take shots that are not good shots. Yeah. We did a video on that a while back, and one of the things that we talk about is the fact that even if you can get a shot off, does not mean that it's a great shot or a good shot. So shot selection is something that you need to really be aware of, and creating space is really going to help you take your shooting to the next level. Yeah. You shouldn't just be able to catch and shoot a ball. I mean, that's great, but if you're able to create space and then catch and shoot a ball, or shoot off the dribble, then you're going to be in much better shape, because you're not going to have a guy in your face contesting you. So work on those kind of things, but experience is huge.
Well, you figure if you're a pretty good shooter, the coaches are going to know that on the opposing team, and they're not going to let you have many really good looks. And so you have to be able to do something to create some space where you get that shot off.
Yeah,
and usually it's intertwined with being able to put the ball on the floor and create situations where you can attack them and counter them, attack them and step back, or some way or another create space for you to get that shot off.
Yeah, so you want to be kind of multidimensional. You don't want to just be a shooter. You want to be able to create space, be a shooter, and also be able to attack the rim too. So they have to respect you. Okay, next question. Let's go to Twitter. This one is from Nathan Thompson at NateT_AF. He says, I have never played b-ball until last year. Next off season, should I join an AAU team and get more game experience or work on skills more? That's tough. It's different for every person, I think, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
The thing about AAU is that it can put you in a position where you're overplaying, and that's not great either, right?
Well, one of the things that happens in some of club basketball, especially AAU basketball, I guess that's the label that has gotten that kind of encompasses a lot of different teams that aren't even in AAU, but they're travel teams. And that is, you want to make sure that you go to a program where there's real coaching that's going on. Oftentimes, teams are put together more for show and to win, and rather than help you develop any skills. And so team members maybe will come from maybe 200 or 300 miles away, and you don't really get a chance to practice. You just come together and you play in tournaments.
And it's not about like the kids so much as it is about the coaches' egos and stuff like that.
Oftentimes that's the case, and so and winning and that sort of thing. And I happen to have been involved with a program for about 10 years that was really interested in just development of the skills of the people that came into that program. And last week, Casey and I were with a college coach locally, and he happened to share that with me. He says, that's the one thing that draws him and his own kids to that program is the fact that they spend so much time trying to work on developing skills for the players that come into their program. And after a year in the program, there is such a noticeable difference in the way those kids play because they have better skills, they have more confidence. And so those are things that you need to look at when you're looking at those kinds of programs.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean they're all bad. I don't mean to say that because, there are probably many of them that are really good, and their coaching is really outstanding. But there's also the other spectrum as well.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is that and if you go watch our video or live show that we did with Coach Bobby Bramlett, there's a lot of good information in there about this kind of stuff and vetting teams that you are looking at that you might want to join, and just kind of doing a little bit of research about that. So go check out that live show with Coach Bobby Bramlett. And then also the other thing is that you should not just be going out there and playing at the expense of developing your skills either. So you want to really put some effort and time into developing your skills and have a balance of actually playing in games and stuff too.
Right.
Some people think that they can just go out there and play AAU or whatever, and then they forget to work on their shooting, they forget to work on their dribbling, and they try to get by in athleticism and all this stuff. You have to have a balance of all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so let's go to a question on YouTube. This one is from Scott Jackson. I have a hard time keeping my elbow in on my shot. Tips?
Yeah. Well, I get a real chuckle out of players who will call and say they've got this problem, how to fix it. Well, you've identified the problem, and so really how to fix it is for you to spend time on it, really thinking about what it is that you want to get done. And all of these other elements and shooting that you kind of acquire over time that are negative for you shooting are just something that you've made into muscle memory because you've done it so many times. And so what you have to do is break that down by repetition, where you're really working on the thing that you want to get done, and that begins to overtake the other style or eliminate that particular element until you get that elbow in. And this is true with all the elements of the shot that you maybe are going to use. And you only change it by mentally focusing on it. Now, one of the things that I would say in way of recommendation for you is we like our form shooting drill, and Dennis Stanton uses a form shooting drill
Spin
pretty
drill
much.
or spin shooting.
Yeah, and they're kind of similar and trying to execute the development of good shooting skills. And so that's something that probably would be really good, is just to take and get yourself into a situation where you are working on your form and you're mentally involved with changing that elbow out.
I have two things that I would say, and
Yeah.
one of them is exactly what you're saying, is that you need to work on your diligent practice. We have the 3 pillars of practice that we talk about every time, having the diligent, refined work where you slow everything down and get all the elements in place and you're thinking about everything that you're doing, then the game speed, game intensity practice, and then the actual game experience. This would fall under the diligent practice pillar, where you're breaking everything down and just focusing in on getting your mechanics set up.
Right.
One other thing that I will say that will help you in trying to keep your elbow in is the fact that a lot of people try to force their hand in behind the ball so that it's directly behind, and that puts a lot of strain on your elbow. See, if I try to turn it so that I get my elbow in there, that hurts. So what you can do, and this is something that you teach all the time, is that you can go up with your hand like this so that you're looking at this little U shape or Y shape, and what my dad calls it is the yoke. And instead of trying to force your hand back like that, which starts to put your elbow out, you can have your hand like this. So it's more like it's a little bit off to the side a little bit. And you can see I can do the 1-finger test and everything, and the ball is up on my finger pad, so I have control. But I'm not forcing my hand behind the ball. So if you have that yoke, what happens is that as you extend up into your release, your hand starts to turn anyways, and it's just much more ergonomical. So it's not like you're trying to force anything, and it's not like you're releasing like that, but you have it here, and as you go up, the ball starts to turn over, your hand starts to turn over. So that might help you a little bit. Okay, so let's go to another one. This one is from Jack Kingston in the Q&A, and it's a little long. He says, a video analyzing Curry's shot would be a great idea because you can use visual aids to further enhance your points. My question refers to your point about footwork earlier. How exactly would you use your feet to generate rhythm? Okay, so the first part, yes, we definitely want to be able to do some shot analysis of Steph Curry's shot. The only issue is that we can't really use copyrighted video from the NBA unless we have permission to do that. Otherwise, you run the risk of having your videos taken down, which we don't want to do. And some people have had problems with that in the past. But this one is the next part is footwork that you're talking about. The way that you use your feet to generate rhythm is that you are using a 1-2 step to generate rhythm instead of hopping into the shot, really. So when you're stepping into your shot, you use the first foot is your stop foot. Your second foot is your gather foot. So as you step in, it's your inside foot, whichever side of the basket you are on that. And that foot will stop your forward momentum. As your second foot comes back alongside of your other foot, then that one is going to be your gather step, and that's going to help you jump up into the air and elevate. So the whole point of it is that you are going in a certain direction, and you need to stop on a dime and be able to get up in the air as fast as possible without affecting the mechanics of your shot.
Right.
And the thing is that 1-2 is not a step into the shot necessarily in the sense that it's like 1 foot, 2 foot. It doesn't go like that. It is seriously 1-2. 1-2, and what you're doing is you're generating rhythm by doing that. And it's very quick, it's very explosive, it's the most biomechanically sound. That's why when you watch people do the high jump, they are doing a 1-2 step to elevate and get over the pole as high as they possibly can.
Right.
So it's the most explosive and quickest. And that's why we say to use that, because it helps you generate rhythm, so you don't have to do something else to generate rhythm. You can eliminate a variable that's not needed, and you can do it before you even catch or pick up the ball on the dribble. You start that process, so it makes your shot quicker in that sense.
Right. One of the things that we teach, I'm not real crazy about the triple threat, and I won't go into why, but one of the reasons that one of the things that we do instead is what we call catch and address. On the catch and address, we're using that same footwork when we're catching the ball from another player, and we actually start that footwork before the ball arrives, and that allows us to get into that rhythm before the shot gets there, and then we step right into it and makes the shot very efficient and fluid, and kind of like I was saying a while ago about Steph Curry saying this feels like a wave that goes through your body. And it's kind of funny when the players that you're working with are shooting, and finally they get that down, they get this big grin on their face. And I said, do you understand what that is all about? That's about the rhythm. That's why that felt so good.
Yeah, and using that 1-2 step is going to make your shot so much faster.
Yeah.
And that's why you see somebody like Steph Curry, who is not the tallest guy, not the quickest guy, but that makes his shot that much faster.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Twitter. This one is from The Real King K, who is at The Real King K21. He says, "Hey, Shot Science, I go to the gym and shoot a lot, but tend to get tired fast. How do you know, or do you know any way I can increase my stamina?" One is just working on your conditioning.
Yeah.
There's no easy way around that. Doing things like sprints or ladders or jump rope or all these things, and also shooting in between those periods of you doing those things. So if you're sprinting, you're not just shooting free throws at the beginning and then doing your sprints. You're doing your sprints and shooting your free throws at the same time, because what you do when you do that is that you're teaching your body to be able to perform even while it's fatigued. So if you find yourself in the fourth quarter of a game and you've been hitting free throws the whole game, and then all of a sudden you step to the line and you are just gassed and you don't know if you're going to be able to put it up, you've been in that position before because you've conditioned yourself to be able to shoot while you're gassed. Right?
Well, another thing is to improve your conditioning as much as possible.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to do that is, and coupled with your vertical jump, is to take a look at our vertical jump handbook, because there is so much conditioning that goes on into that particular program that you can benefit with explosiveness and probably speed as well.
Okay, here's one from Alex James, who is at AlexJGJ, who's here all the time. He says, "How do you tell the trainer you want to play in the final decisive moments of the match without sounding like an egocentric player?" Well, I mean, you shouldn't be telling them anything, really.
They're not going to listen anyway.
You're not Kobe Bryant.
No, and the coaches don't want players trying to put themselves in the game.
You should be the guy before that situation even comes up.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that you do that by producing the rest of the game, and then when it's crunch time, and he needs somebody, and he knows that you can get it done because you've proven you can do that, then you will be the one. But if you take and step up there and tell him you want to go in that crunch time, he's going to take and probably set you right back down again, because he didn't want that kind of help from his players. He will make that decision himself.
Yeah, I mean, having confidence is one thing, but you don't want it to be a situation where you're telling the coach what to do or who should be on the floor or whatever. Yeah. You should be having that discussion with your actions.
Yeah.
So you should be out there, you should be the dominant player if you want to be the one taking the decisive shot. I'm sure people like Michael Jordan, he probably was not walking around saying, "I'm taking the decisive shot. I'm taking the decisive shot." The coach knew he was going to be the one taking the shot because he's Michael Jordan. Yeah. So be that guy. Okay, this one is from Christopher Taylor in the chat, who says, "Can you help me? I'm left-handed and my ball curves like a knuckleball when I shoot the ball. My coaches and parents call me Knuckleball Chris."
Well, yeah, we can only guess, but you know what would be really a good idea? Make a video of yourself shooting and send it to us, and we'll take a look at it and see if we can help you.
Yeah, knuckleball.
It's really hard to figure out. A knuckleball probably means there's no rotation to speak of.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're actually getting a curve on a basketball,
I can't believe that.
Yeah, you should join the circus, because that's crazy.
I can't believe that you can even do that. But if it's a knuckleball, it means that you're not following through with your two fingers as you finish the shot and your wrist.
Right, and let's talk about that real quick too. The thing about, and we should have probably talked about this during the Steph Curry thing, but when you're shooting, you really want the ball to come off these two fingers last. And some people say one finger or whatever, but the thing is that you have to think about control of the basketball, right? You can't just expect the control to be there if you go off one finger, because look, there is no surface area really contacting the ball at all with one point of contact, and the ball can just, if it's coming off your finger, it could rock just a millimeter, and all of a sudden you're completely out of alignment with your shot. Yeah. If you add the second finger in, and you're not shooting like this necessarily, but if it's coming off those two fingers like that, you have 2 points of contact. the ball is not rocking around on that. So you're going to have less margin for error if you are able to release off of those two fingers. It's just much more stable.
But if it's a knuckleball, you're not following through with your wrist and fingers.
Yes, slow everything down, start using the form shooting drill, and you'll be able to kind of work on those little tiny elements that will make your shot better.
Right.
Okay, so let's go up here from Nashiz Mimon again, who says, why is it so important to hold the follow-through, and how long should you hold it for, especially in regards to trying to go for the offensive rebound on your own shot?
Well, okay. The reason it's important that you hold that is too many players, as they finish, it's hard for me to demonstrate it here, but let me just kind of scooch down. Some players will take and allow the wrist to flop back. Some will take and allow the wrist to turn sideways. What you want to do is get out to the end of your arm and make sure that that wrist, the arm stroke and the wrist finish, and then you hold it there for 2 seconds or until it gets the basket. That's kind of a general rule, that you hold it that long, because too often what happens is we get to the end of the wrist like this and that wrist will pop back up, or some other little anomaly that will screw up the shot. So you want to hold that for that follow through, so the follow through is complete. That's just like throwing a baseball. You don't take and start here and throw a baseball and then stop. You follow through after you release the basketball.
And the thing about it is that it just reinforces all the positive elements of the shot that you want to develop. It's not nothing happens after you release the ball and you hold the pose.
Yeah.
Nothing happens after the ball comes off your fingers. What it does is that it teaches you and it holds you to having the proper mechanics before the ball is released.
Right.
And as for in terms of how long you should hold it, probably for the flight of the ball, or at least 1 or 2 counts at least.
Yeah, typically scientific studies have shown that a free throw takes about 1.5 to 2 seconds to get to the basketball or to the basket, and so it's not very long. Most people don't have a clue. They think it takes 3 or 4 seconds, but usually it's that short a time. And the other thing is, it depends on where you're shooting it from with regards to whether you're going to go for the offensive rebound. And it's great that you are thinking that way. I can think of situations that I've seen where a shooter would follow their shot right away because they knew it was off right away and they had a good idea where it was going to go. In that situation, hold only long enough to go get it. But you do want to hold that finish as much as possible.
Right. Okay. Let's go to another one. This one is from Twitter, and it is from Mr. Drudy, who's named Elias. He says, hi, what is the most productive thing I can do during a pick and roll when passive and not involved in the play?
When he's not involved in the play?
Apparently, yeah.
Okay. Well, it really depends on where you are on the floor. If you're not involved in the pick and roll, one of the things that you want to do is be aware of what your defensive player is doing. Is he trying to get involved in the defense of that? And if he is, then you should be looking to relocate to a space where he can't get to you really quick and they can maybe give you the ball instead. That's one thought on it.
I think that there's multiple things you can do too, but like relocating.
Relocating.
Also, when the pick and roll happens, somebody is probably going to be going to the basket, and there might be a situation where the ball gets dumped off to the screener on his pick and roll,
yes.
And then your defensive guy is going to try to fall off onto that guy.
Right.
If you're cutting to the basket at the same time and keeping a little bit of distance from that guy, you could get the pass for the easy bucket there.
Yeah.
If it's something where you're on the ball side of it, maybe you could flare and maybe go baseline a little bit and find yourself open on the perimeter.
Yeah, probably most important to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Because that is the motion that is trying to be created, is the screen and go to the basket, or screen and give to the guy rolling or flaring. And so mostly you kind of want to stay out of the way.
But it's also a great opportunity to have movement without the ball, because if you do that, you're going to be, your guy is probably going to be caught up a little bit with what's going on with the screen and roll.
Exactly.
And you are able to move without him really being able to follow that.
Right.
So just kind of relocate to an area where, he's away from the play and you're moving away from him to create some space.
Right. One of the rules that we use with people who are relocating is it depends on which way your defender turns. If he turns away from you to, let's say, the right, you go opposite. So when he comes back to you, you're not there, and vice versa. If you turn to the left, and then you go the opposite direction, because when he turns, you don't want him to be able to find you right away. And so that's what the relocation really is all about.
Yeah, and the thing about that kind of stuff, there's a lot of nuances about it. So it's not like we could tell you one specific thing to do, or even a handful of things to do. I mean, you really have to have experience and understand how to move without the ball to have that down.
Well, and if you're playing for a team that has a coach, he's going to tell you what he wants you to do too in that action.
Right. Okay. So let's go back in here to the chat. This one is from Hayan Tenario, who's saying, "Do we know about using the finger, or what other shooting coaches call the finger?" And he says that Kobe Bryant and MJ uses the finger. Actually, that is not true. If you watch MJ or even Kobe in super slow motion on the Phantom camera stuff, you will see. Well, actually, Michael Jordan didn't have the Phantom camera, but still, super slow motion stuff with Michael Jordan. You will see that every time they shoot the ball, it comes off of these last two fingers. And if you watch from behind their body, they're shooting like this. You will see it every single time that the ball comes off like that. Now, if you catch them at a certain point during that slow motion when their hand is flopping down, it can sometimes look like they are doing that. But that's in a freeze frame or after they've released the ball. If you watch them actually release the ball, you will see it comes off these last two fingers every single time.
The only way you can control the basketball.
You cannot control the basketball with one finger. It just does not work. And a lot of people that think that they're doing it with one finger are actually releasing off of that, and then they're doing some finger pointing thing. But it still is releasing off of those two fingers. Okay? So hopefully, and you can go check that out. Check out slow motion stuff. Let's see. This one is from DC Megabomb, who says, "Do I continue exercising even if my leg muscles are sore?"
Well, one of the things if your leg muscle is sore is you should be doing a lot of stretching as well, and that'll help to loosen them up a lot.
Stretching, foam rolling, drinking a lot of water, being consistent with whatever you're doing and working up to it, not necessarily going in and blasting your body without building the foundation.
Well, usually that soreness will pass in several days anyway, if you just continue to work out. But the stretching and foam rolling is huge.
Yeah. Okay. This one is from Hin. Oh man, I can't pronounce that. Hin Charlet. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. They say, "How can I improve my streak shooting?" That is easy. It's through consistent practice.
Yeah. Just as we said earlier in this program today that Steph Curry shoots 1,000 shots before practice every day. That's how you get to the point where you can be really effective and improve your streak shooting or any shooting is just by practicing it a ton. When you do that, then you're going to become much more successful with it. So that's exactly what we would tell you to do.
Yeah. Okay. So this one is from Julian White, who is at Dub97 on Twitter, who says, "When shooting off the dribble, how should I set up to shoot?"
Well, if you're asking us how we think you ought to do it, we think you ought to do it with the stop and gather footwork, which is typically referred to as lead trail or the 1-2 step. And the reason that we like it is that you are able to execute it quickly and you're on balance and you create rhythm while you're getting ready to shoot. Those are the three things that we would say about that.
Yeah, and just make sure you have that slight stagger towards your shooting side. And make sure, the other thing too is that if you're using the 1-2 step gather footwork, it eliminates one other variable, which is when you step into a shot 1-2, you're going from low to high because you're starting out low with that footwork and exploding high into your release. When you hop into your shot, what you're doing is you're going from a high, even though it's just slightly elevated, you're going from a high to low to high. So you're adding in an extra variable there, and time, and balance, and changing of your center of gravity and all that. So using the 1-2, it will get you to go from low to high, and it's very quick and explosive.
Yeah, if you use that footwork, you'll find it's very effective, very effective.
Okay, this one is from STL, who is at STL_David Boss, who says, "Is a one-motion shot like Steph Curry necessary to have good form?" Well, an efficient shot is really what is going to have lead to good shooting form.
And effectiveness, that's the whole thing, is that you have to have some form like his Doesn't have to be exactly perfectly like his, because everybody's a little bit different. And that took me a long time before I kind of figured out that even though the mechanics are all very much the same, some people are not as flexible and they have little idiosyncrasies. But if you are going to be efficient in your shot, that's important for you to take and practice that and practice it and practice it. And you do want to be like Steph Curry if you can do that.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you do have a two motion shot, which is that's weird terminology, but if you are having a shot that has sticking points or stopping points, like we said earlier, that is a point in your shooting mechanics where you lose power.
Yes.
And it also
rhythm.
And it will hurt your rhythm too. So having that efficient flowing shot, and we call it connectivity, that essentially is from feet to finish, all one motion, is going to make your shot that much more accurate and that much more repeatable.
Sure.
And powered. Okay, this one is from, let's see. I just saw it and then I lost it. This one is from Nathan Thompson, who was at NateT_AF, who says, if I get your vertical jump handbook, should I do that workout before or after my basketball workout? After.
Yes. It will really tax you physically, and you have to do that to be effective. Have the thing help you develop the vertical that you want. The thing that's really important about that program too, you're using your body weight instead of dead weights to load up for the work that you're doing, and it's much less difficult on your joints and that kind of thing. And so I would do it after practice, and it's going to take you about an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half to go through all of those. But you'll really enjoy the results of it.
And Nathan's also asking something about he goes to open gym sometimes and doesn't want to just sit there. What are some things he can do without a hoop? Work on your ball handling.
Absolutely.
Work on your flexibility. Work on your dynamic stretching and all these things.
Well, and one of the things that we did with our guys here for a couple of years, for the last couple of years, is everybody has a foam roller that they have in their bag. And one of the things they do is they come to practice, and one of the first things they do is roll out the muscles in their legs, and it tends to make those, and stretch, and those really make the legs much more. What's the word? You're not going to be tight, and you don't want to be tight. You want to have those muscles to be really loose, and there's probably less soreness that goes along with that too.
Okay, this one's from Michael Bryant on Twitter, who is at Marie Izongi. And they say, hey, coach, how can I regain confidence after I shot a couple of air balls and committed some turnovers? I really want to help my team.
Okay. Quit worrying about it.
Yep.
One of the things that young players get themselves into is being afraid to make mistakes. Probably one of the greatest players ever in basketball was Michael Jordan. And one of the things that he has said time and time again is that he has made way more mistakes than anybody would ever understand. That's just part of the game. You take a chance. When you go out on a basketball floor or a football field or a baseball field or anything like that, there are going to be the opportunities for you to screw up, and sometimes you will. But the thing is not what you did, but look ahead to what you're going to do in the future. In fact, one of the things I use all the time is when people are starting to fret over the things that they did is, look, that's yesterday's news, which means nothing today. And so let's move on. Don't be afraid. If you make a mistake, figure that probably in the course of a basketball game, probably there's going to be 40 or 50 mistakes that are going to be made by everybody on that team. Maybe that's a little high, but the idea is don't worry about it and move on. All the stuff that happened in the past means very little. What happens in the next few minutes maybe is way more important.
Yeah, and
don't beat yourself up.
And the thing about it is that making a mistake at one point on the floor and then coming down and letting it affect you the next time down the floor is the worst thing you can do.
Exactly. Or trying to make up for it.
Yeah, every time down the floor is a new possession, a new experience. You should not worry about what happened the last time or the last 10 times down the floor, because if you do that, you've already talked yourself out of a successful trip.
Yeah.
So you need to always be thinking, okay, this time, it's a brand new slate. We're just going to come down, we're going to get the basket. Yeah. If you're worried about, oh, geez, last time down the floor I kicked the ball out of bounds, or last time down the floor I threw that pass and that guy just picked it right off, or whatever, who cares?
Well,
it does not matter. It's already happened, and
And if you worry about it, you're going to turn it over right away again. You just forget it.
Yep, and that's
Forget it.
hard for young people to understand,
Yeah.
but you just got to really get into that mentality. Okay, we have reached the point of the lightning round, which we fail at every single time because we just are so long-winded about these things. But we're going to try to lightning round all these questions, and so short answers if we can. Okay, this one is from DC Megabomb, who says, tips for increasing vertical jump, both standing and running. Check out our vertical jump handbook and our vertical jump videos on YouTube.
Right.
We have a ton of stuff on all of that and a workout program for 3 months. So check that out. That's our best advice. This one is from YD Thunder, who says, I can never figure out how to master the spin layup without traveling. Can you guys help me out? Can you do a video on this? Well, spin layup. Not sure exactly what that means.
I think he's talking about the reverse or the spin move. You know, one of the things that happens there is we tend to carry the ball. And where hand goes under the basketball. If you go watch our dribble attack on the spin dribble, and I think that, don't we have Paul Gasol and the spin move and whatnot? Yep. Anyway, if you look at that, notice how he handles the basketball. The guy handles the basketball. He doesn't allow the ball to his hand to come under the ball. He doesn't switch hands either immediately on the spin. I think that's what he's talking about, is on the spin layup. What you want to do is don't switch your hands right away. Take the dribbled hand and pull the ball through and then pick it up.
Yeah, it's a pull dribble, not a carry dribble.
Yeah.
And you have to pick the right hand, so watch that video.
Yeah, okay. Watch the video. It's all right there.
New one, lightning round, can't forget. This one is from Scott Jackson, who says, I'm a drive type player and I'm a good finisher and a scorer, but I feel like I could get more space. I would be more efficient. Any moves to create more space? Yes. Check out our dribble attacks. Check out our offensive move stuff like the hammer, the diamond, the long 1-1, the jab step. There's so many things that you could use. So check out our offensive moves playlist on our YouTube channel. Amando Indagije or something like that, close, I hope, says, what tips do you have for short point guards and shooting? In shooting, we have a ton of tips.
Well, the thing that's really important is quit worrying about your size.
Yep.
What you want to do is take and find yourself a way where you can create space where you get your shot off. And it doesn't make any difference. Probably if you are shorter than the people you're playing against, you're probably going to be a little quicker than they are, essentially. And so use that quickness to get yourself open and quit worrying about being short.
Yeah, use things like creating space to score and moving without the ball, and you will be in much better shape. So you check out those things on our channel for sure. Yeah. This one is from Mr. Obama, who says, stretching has never been proven to help against soreness. When a muscle is warmed up after exercise, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. So we're not saying that it helps against soreness. What we're saying is that you are able to utilize more of your muscle, and doing stuff like the foam rolling will help you remove adhesions, and also dynamic stretching will help you warm up your muscles before you just go in and start doing any kind of performance or exercise. So what we're saying is really to just get in the habit of doing that stuff. We're not saying that it gets rid of soreness.
No, but it does help with it. Yeah.
It helps you utilize your muscles more efficiently. Right. Okay, so this one is from Sean Lewis. What are some good things to do to improve your core strength? Well, there's a lot of things you can do. And I would suggest you go check out our friend Alan Stein, who is the guy that does Stronger Team. He has a YouTube channel, and he has a ton of stuff on there about improving your core strength and just general athleticism. So I would say go check out Alan's stuff. And we just did a video with him this last few days. So if you go to our channel, you can find his links and all that stuff. Okay, this one is from Caden Boschek, who says, do shooting mechanics really matter if you make it and make it consistently?
Well, you know,
that's a tough question, really.
Well, it is a tough question, and I would tell you this, is that, you know, shooting mechanics for some people doesn't make any difference. You take a look at a guy like Reggie, what's Reggie's last name? The NBA.
Reggie Miller?
Reggie Miller. Worst mechanics ever if you were just kind of look at it, but he was just awesome as a shooter. And so
here's the thing about mechanics. If you're trying to start from zero, try to put these mechanics that are fundamental into your shooting, into your actual mechanics that you use, because it will help you get from point A to point B much more efficiently and faster and with less tribulation.
Yep.
If you're trying to just go into something and don't have any idea of what you're doing, it's maybe you'll get there because people like Reggie Miller or Sean Marion or whoever that have these funky mechanics, they were able to do it, but they probably had to work way harder than they would have if they had just actually had solid mechanics from the get-go.
Right.
So yes, you can. You can probably learn how to shoot, left hand or weak side hand over your head at some point. I mean, but you just have to really use those fundamentals to make it easy on yourself.
Well, and when you get really good mechanics, your efficiency goes up, which means your percentage of makes goes up.
This one is from Arya Kashmiri, who says, do you recommend going straight through a screen, over or under it?
Well, we don't want to go through the screen. If you go through the screen, you're probably going to be called for a charge. But
not a charge. You're going to be for
running over somebody, the screen for you.
But I think they're the defender. I think she's.
Oh, okay. Is that a defender? Okay. All right. So one of the things you want to do is if you can get over the top of it and stay with your defender, or with the offensive player, that's what you want to do first. If you are cut off, your teammates should be cooperating with you and step back and give you room to slide through. There are some situations where some coaches, because of certain players who are setting screens are really good shooters, they don't want them to back up and separate because they're liable to get the ball and be able to shoot effectively. So it kind of depends on the situation. And one of the things that we teach our players, we think is really effective, is we want to switch everything that we can. So that even if we end up with big little mismatches, we want to switch it so we have an immediate pressure on the person who's coming off the screen. One of the things that can really hurt you a lot is you get they set a screen on you and they come off, and your defender is either step back or is late, and they get an open look for a shot. Whereas if you're switching it, the person that is your teammate is going to switch and have immediate pressure on the guy with the basketball or the girl with the basketball.
Okay, this one is from a Liger Slayer, who says, I'm starting to not enjoy sports as much as I used to. I don't want to play football, which I have been playing for 6 years. I don't want to run track, which I am good at, and baseball is getting boring. How can I tell my dad? Just got to tell him.
Yeah, just tell him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's your life.
He's not going to be upset with you. If he is, he'll get over it.
Yeah.
There's no sense in doing something that you don't enjoy doing because you won't do it well.
Yeah, find the things that you actually want to be doing.
Truly.
This one is from Ball for Life, who says, how do you get a scoring mentality?
Oh, that's really good. I saw that earlier. And a scoring mentality is having no fear. One of the things that happens with young players is that they're afraid to shoot for fear that they will miss. There's two types of people in basketball. As far as I'm concerned, there are shooters and there are scorers. And I love the scorers because they have no hesitation. They're going to go get the score however it needs to be done. Shooters, they're good too, but they're not as likely to go to the basket and get one when you really need it. So and what is really a treasure is when you find that you've got both those elements in one player. They're a shooter and they can get the score no matter what the situation is. And when it's down to crunch time, for me, I'm giving the ball to the scorer before I give it to the shooter.
Yeah, and to get a scoring mentality, you have to have the mechanics and skills built up to the point where you have the confidence in them.
And the nerve to do it.
Yeah, and if you, part of it is just switching your brain a little bit, but the other part of it is really just having the skills there to back it up. Because if you don't, then there's no reason to have that mentality. So work on your skills, work on getting game experience, and you'll start to have that kind of thing start to happen for you. Let's see. This one is from Matthew Lorenzo Knowles, who says, I know a lot of people have their off days, but what's the best way to get through them? Sticking to the fundamentals or something else? Thanks. Being consistent.
Off days and shooting, I think that probably must be what he's talking about. Hey, everybody has those, and one of the things that you need to do is, if it is regarding the shooting, we tell all of our players and students this: when things don't feel like they're going right for you and you're 0 for 6 from the three-point line, focus on your finish. That means that you're going to focus on the elements of your shot at the end, and realize that there are going to be times when you're going to go 7 or 8 for 10. Also realize there are going to be times when you go 1 for 10, and you have to live with that, and don't worry about it. Just keep coming, keep working, focus on the finish.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that you want to really make sure that you are consistent, so you're shooting and practicing this every day, and also you're not worried about what happened the last time or the time before, whatever. Stay present with what you're doing. Okay, quick couple last ones here. This one is from the Panda Play Game, who says, I've been hanging in the air when I'm taking it in and usually end up getting contested or blocked. I feel I forget how to finish quickly. How could I fix that? I feel like if I try to finish fast, I might blow the layup. Any advice? Okay, don't finish fast. Don't rush stuff. What I would suggest is checking out our Finishes at the Rim video. Also consider the jump stop, because that is one where if you're able to jump stop, sometimes they run right past you, or they're there. You can give them a quick pump fake, get them up in the air, and then take a shot. So check out those things. Finishes at the rim, and also a quick jump stop. This one is from It's Pinoy, who says, I shoot with two hands a lot, and it makes it go to the right. How do I fix I'm right-handed? With any shooting, get the elements that you want to have for your shooting mechanics, work on them diligently, and then do the 3 pillars of practice. I mean, you've identified the problem, so fix it. This is the last question today. This is from Fat Nguyen, who says, Hi, Coach Tom and Casey. Is there any drill to develop a quick first step? I want to be explosive when attacking the rim. I think working on jab steps is probably the best way to do that, and then also consider the long one-on-one, which is something that we teach, and we have a video up on it. But just really getting the repetitions in, that's how you develop quick anything. So work on that kind of stuff, and those tactics will also help you just in their using them. They will help you. So the long one-on-one is one that it's not necessarily faster, but it moves you to point A to point B fast.
It puts a defense in a real bad spot real quick.
Okay, so that's it, you guys. We're going to shut down right now, and if we missed your question, it wasn't because we didn't like you or didn't like the question. It's just that we ran out of time. If you want to reach us during the week until next week we have another show at 1 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, but if you want to reach us between that time, you can reach us at Twitter. We are at Shot Science. You can also reach us on Facebook, Google+, and make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you have a question and you want us to answer it, it's good to usually try to find an applicable YouTube video. Leave your question there, and we will try to get to it.
Right.
But if you have a question, just let us know. And also, make sure you go out and tell your friends and family to check out our videos and our live shows. Make sure you check out our last video that we put out the other day where Alan Stein shows you how to have a pregame warm-up routine. Make sure you go subscribe to Alan and check out his stuff because he's a cool guy. More stuff coming out with him soon. And also, thanks for showing up, and we will see you guys next time, Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific. All right?
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you later.